Hello, I'm Michael Lakin. In the last programme you saw me painting the water lily to the halfway stage. Now we're going to carry on and finish the painting. Okay, now we've completed the second procedure. We need to go on to the third procedure, which is called crossovers. That term means that where the petals actually cross over, self-explanatory, there is a darker tone, and that gives depth to the actual flower. So what I'm going to do is add some neutral tint, which is a shadow colour, to the red that we'd already used, the pinky red. If we do this in stages, it will gradually build up the depth. That's why I'm adding the neutral tint to this colour. So again, I've got my piece of tissue to cover the rest of the stem and work, and move that up so that it covers the previous work that you've done, so it doesn't spoil it. And right on this, between the petals here, we'll do this. Don't be afraid to go too dark, because it will lighten, but go in quite dark and then just grade it out so that it's putting this left hand petal in front of this, the one that I'm actually putting the shadow colour on. I'm using a number 2 brush again, so you're in control with that. If you use a number 6, obviously it's too big for this. So just bring that out. Again, just grade it with clean water so that we don't get a black splodge, a dark splodge. It must be graded out so that it's subtle and even. Again, you can work alternate petals so that they don't run into each other. Down here, we can go really dark. Bring it up into the left hand side. We don't want it on the right hand side so much because it's the left hand one. Remember, your light's coming from top left, so it's the left hand side that's in shadow and the right hand side, this side, that's catching the light. That will probably, you know, be a little bit alien to you, but it works. It's the correct procedure. Really sharp into these corners so that the petals are really crisp. I'm going into this one down here now, just to cross this one, but I'm not going quite as dark because it's a little bit closer to me, the petal. It's near this side, the outside, so we can go just that little bit lighter with the tone, a little bit thinner with the paint. So just grade that in, and as it comes up into the light, it will be just that little bit lighter. Again, keep it accurate. As before, grade the paint on the edge so that it doesn't leave a dark line. That's graded in now nicely. We will go back into these areas, so do it in stages. One application probably will not be enough. Again, here on this outside, to separate these two petals, just get a bit more in there. Grade it out. So that it blends in just the same. Really neat. Then I'll work down here, this one, down here, if you can see that, just down there. You can also, if you've gone over the edge a little bit, you can neaten it up. It'll do 2 jobs actually. Grade that out again. I know you'll think it's going too dark, but when it's dry it'll be just that little bit lighter. Won't be quite as dark as what you think. So just a bit more water on there. We'll go back into this one here, right on the bottom left hand side, into the sepal area, and just grade that out again so that it's really neat, really nice point on the end. The brush will do it. It's making sure that you do it. Okay, just at the side of that sepal, get it really neat there. And we can go up the side of that as well, but just that little bit thinner, not too thick. Again, to put that behind the petal that's in front, which is this one. Just keep your clean water on the edge. work it. And if you leave brush marks, just soften them off while it's wet. You'll have a job to get them off once it's dry, so don't leave them. And we've got another one here. There's quite a lot. Obviously, the more complicated the flower, the more crossovers there are. So while that's drying, I'm just going to do the sepal area, because they have got crossovers as well, and from the sepal to the stem. Now the stem will be in complete shadow under here, so this is definitely a crossover. Just paint a little triangle like that, and just grade it to the right hand side of the stem, not the left hand side, because this is the shadow side, and slightly under this sepal here to bring it into the fore. Again, just soften the edge all the time. We'll go into this one here, which is underneath this sepal, so that will be just that bit darker. Put this in position, and then just grade that out. Don't go too far, because you'll start getting to the green. We don't want that. We want it in the shadow area, so don't bring it out too far. A little bit on this one, just gauge it so that it makes sense. Don't put it in if it's not applicable. So just tidy that up a little bit there. Now I'm going to go in a little bit darker on some of them, because some aren't quite dark enough. So just a little bit, especially on this right hand side, more shadow just in there. Grade that out again like that. Remember to leave, don't go over this little thickness edge, which is there and there. Just soften into that corner. We've got another one here we didn't do first time round, so we can just do that now. Just there and down, right into that bottom corner. Clean water, twist on your brush. You'll notice I twist it every time. It's just a habit that you get into, and I can guarantee it works. You'll not get too much water on the paper then, and you won't end up with wet in wet. We need a little bit just there on this top petal. Again, very faint, so don't put much on. Don't get it as dark as the right hand side. Just keep it nice and fluid, and blend it in. I'll have another check. This sepal is outside that petal, so that will be an overlap there. So we can get a little bit just on this bottom edge, just here. Acts as the shadow. Work that in. So there we go, just keep working that so that it's nice and balanced. A little bit just on this edge here, a little bit more there. Very little, just little bits, just to, but it does matter, it does make a difference. Just show what's in position. I'll just go a little bit down this bottom edge here, which is quite dark. Little triangle, work that in, and that would complete the crossovers. We're now going into the fourth step, which is harmonisation. What we need to do is to use a little bit of the original mix of green, the sap green and transparent yellow, and it needs to be very, very thin, as thin as the first wash that you originally used. So very thin washes, do not go in too thick, very important that. And I'm just going to wash this small area, not all over, where the sepal would reflect on the flower itself. And that is in this area here. Again, work with your form. So put the paint on and then grade it again. Do not go all the way along, and do not leave it just in a flat wash. Just grade the wash so that we've got this hint of green onto the pinky red petals. Okay, and we'll do that on this side as well, where we've got the sepal. Just a little bit there, clean water again, just grade it in and grade it out into the white light area, sorry, of the petal. This just brings into play and harmonises the sepals with the petals and vice versa. So I'm just going to go a little bit more on these bottom petals here and just add a little bit there, quickly just on the edge. There we go. And again on this one here. You can see it works very well. It's starting to just blend in and bring everything together. Okay, now we need a mixture, which I'll remix, of the Opera Rose. Do it in a separate well. That's the Opera Rose there with a little bit of Winsor Red. Not much, just a little bit. Very, very thin. Again, it must be thin. Very thin mix, like that. And we'll just apply that onto this sepal. If it's too dark, more water, just grade it on like this. Okay, just a little bit more on this base, on the underside of the sepal. It'll just darken it that little bit, but it will bring in that colour. That's exactly what we want to do. Again, don't leave any lines, just keep working it so it blends in. Again, on this sepal, just a little bit down here, water, grade it back in, grade that up to the highlight, and a little bit on these lower ones as well. Just that little bit, just down here. Because this is what happens in nature when you get even different coloured plants in a border together. They will reflect light to each other. So we can just do that. And we know the stem's green, but it's a different green. We can have that green just reflecting onto this stem as well. Just down this side, just to bring that into play. You've got that lovely reflection there. Just to bring it down. If one application doesn't work, you can always redo it. It's not really worked quite as well as I would have wished on this sepal here. I can just see that it's not wet, so I can just apply a little bit more of the red. Again, thin. Don't go any thicker with your wash. A little bit thinner there, just on this bottom edge. Water, grade out, just to bring and harmonise that together. A little bit on this tip, which is the on the shadow side. Just soften that off as well. This is dried here on the petals, and it's the green onto the petals, and here it's not very noticeable. It is on the left hand side because it's lighter, so I'm going a little bit darker with the green onto the red on this side. Again, in a very, very thin wash. Just work it in. That has just completed the harmonisation. So now all we need to do is leave that to dry.